So first of all, thank you for your time. Really enjoyed the film. So I do want to begin by asking, obviously the events depicted in the film happened 12 years ago. Why do you think now is still a great time to release this documentary into the world?
Well, thank you so much for having us today. It's so nice to meet you, and we're so grateful to be here at Fantasia. This is just the perfect audience and home for our film. I mean, I think the struggle for independent filmmakers to get their films out and to have their voices heard was, it was relevant 10, 15 years ago and is just as important and challenging today, and if not more so today. I mean, I think the thing that's incredible is that with technology, anyone can make a film. If you have an iPhone or you have a DJI or you can make a movie, and it costs very little now, and it's fast and efficient, but to get your film out there is really the challenge. And so I think that this film shows a point in time 10 years ago where we were trying that a group of filmmakers are trying to get their voices heard and showing the struggles of getting attention and being sort of policed out of a specific festival. But it's just sort of one microcosm that is an example of so many filmmakers all over the world who are facing this at many festivals and lots of different places where whether you're trying to get into the mainstream or trying to get in anywhere to get your film or your product or your work or your art seen.
And the theater was a big theater. That was the main theater, and it was packed. And Catherine and Lily-Hayes we all got standing ovation for Occupy Can. We had other cast members from Return to Nuke High who were featured in Occupy Can, and they were on stage, and it was a wonderful presentation. The projection was, as always, with Fantasia, beautiful. Film looked gorgeous, and it was really a wonderful for an old man. It was very gratifying. It was really great. Fantasia is the place. It's the best. It is. James Gunn and I have said it to each other. Mitch Davis is the best curator, and you can, no matter what you see at Fantasia, it's going to be memorable and usually very, very good. And
Yeah,
even if you don't like
absolutely.
it, it's got something to say. The movie comes from the filmmaker's heart, brain, and soul. And in our case, it's usually the brain doesn't get involved too much, but the heart and soul is there for sure.
Yeah,
That's me.
absolutely. Yeah, and I love that you mentioned Fantasia because I think, obviously the film is very critical of the Cannes establishment. But I think Fantasia is very brave to program a film like this. And it kind of shows that they're willing to program this, that maybe not all is lost in the festival world. Do you think there's like still hope to be found in festivals like Fantasia as like bastions of truly independent cinema?
Well, you were here. Catherine was here 10 years ago with Return to Nuke High, and this is your first time. What was your experience
I mean,
compared to Cannes, for example?
well, you have an interesting experience with Cannes.
Well, yeah, I guess, Cannes was my very first film festival, and what a privilege. I don't think I even realized at the time that that was not normal. It was not normal for the very first thing that you were starring in to premiere at a festival like that. I was reading books to understand what people even did at film festivals. I was 18 years old,
So,
and I think and it's but one of the things I learned through the making of Occupy Can, and also as I've gone further along and not only been in film festivals but worked for them, is that there's different, they serve different purposes, and there are these larger film festivals that serve as very big kind of press opportunities and press junkets, but they're not as much of a marketplace in terms of like sales for independent films anymore. And I think that has shifted from what they were originally. But the smaller festivals that are, I wouldn't even say smaller because they're just as big behemoths, but they don't get the attention that like a Cannes or a TIFF or a Sundance might get. It's up to them to kind of to prove value in the marketplace in terms of the sales opportunities and networking opportunities they provide for filmmakers, but and also in the programming that they have. And I think you see that at a festival like Fantasia that now has such prestige and such a great lineup that it runs for 3 weeks. And there are people who are here for the entire 3 weeks. And a lot of the films that come out of Fantasia go on to really get great runs and great distribution. So I think it's shifted, but I think there's still a world in which, you know, outside of media control and consolidation, independent voices can still, you know, there. I mean, Lily-Hayes can speak to this more clearly, but you know, I think even when you were submitting, a lot of people don't know this, but there's a whole campaign structure that goes into submitting for the big film festivals. Lily-Hayes has been submitting this film just on Film Freeway, the same way any other filmmaker would. And it's getting programmed at these festivals. So it means that there's still anybody, and anybody can do that. Anybody can go on Film Freeway and submit their film, and these festivals watch them. So I don't know, that's kind of a long-winded roundabout way of explaining that, I guess.
No, for sure. Do you have anything to add?
Occupy can, excuse me for interrupting, but it's more relevant now with the Trump and the clowns they now want to control the culture of United States. You know, suing these ridiculous pressures on TV personalities and everything. You know, the celebrities don't speak out either. They're scared. They're celebrities. The only people speaking out are Trey Parker and Matt Stone, who came out of the
Right.
loins of Troma Entertainment.
Well, it's so interesting because I think in Lily's film, or Lily-Hayes, I keep saying Lily, I know 40 because everyone keeps saying Lily. It's Lily-Hayes, everybody. Myself included just there. Oh my gosh. Everyone was saying, oh, whatever. I just like did it. I was very upset with myself. I'm sorry. I know better.
So you're breathing.
This is what I'm going to get upset about. But well, it was so amazing to talk to Lily-Hayes and to start talking about coming to releasing this film because what's happening now. I mean, working on this documentary was how I learned about media consolidation. What we're seeing with the Paramount deal and with CBS and with the Trump administration is media consolidation on steroids, where there is program censorship at a federal level. And actually, when the studio system was created which is a time that we kind of I think wrongfully idealize as film lovers, the studio system were media conglomerates. They owned they had their own movie theaters, they had their own talent, they had their own directors. You would have to get an agreement for one director to work with another studio. They oversaw everything that was going out, and the federal government did come in during that time and made that illegal. So you could a movie studio could not own movie theaters, could not sanction which where their directors and talent went. That was up to them, and that was very important for the advent of independent cinema and for anyone who wanted to make movies in general. So now we're seeing the opposite of that. You know, almost over 50 years later, and that's a terrible thing. So this documentary, I think, is more important than ever before.
Yeah, absolutely. And like even beyond, like the festival world, like as you're mentioning, I think this is very much like there's still a lot of these issues with the industry. Like, I mean, even looking at like the new Toxie, it has A-list actors, A-list director, Hollywood production company, and it took 2 years to find distribution. So what do you think that filmmakers and audiences can do to keep independent film alive?
I think it's word of mouth. That's the secret. Troma movies have word of mouth. Terra Firma, starring Charlotte Kaufman as a mute child at 8 years old. That movie was a flop because it got chopped up by the rating board. So it was hard to get, show in theaters. It didn't make any sense. But now it's actually, was done in 1999. Now it's actually profitable, and the Blu-rays are going out. We can't afford to make them because you have to make 1,000 all at once, and we don't have, we have to bootstrap everything. But suddenly, word of mouth, you can't buy it. The big shots, Rupert Murdoch and Trump and all that, they can't buy word of mouth. The truth and art does maintain. And how many examples of, look at poor old Van Gogh cutting his ear off didn't work, right? He had to kill himself before anybody paid attention. Didn't sell one painting. His brother bought one painting for $50 or so. That was it. It takes a while for art to. Duchamp, the French newspapers compared me to Duchamp, who hung a urinal on the wall in the American Parisian, fist fights broke out over it. And now you can buy the signed urinal, of which there's a bunch of them. He signed a bunch of them, and they're like 500,000 each by Duchamp. There's also a very nice a spade. You like gardening? You could buy a Duchamp signed a spade, Catherine.
To garden with or to
Duchamp?
hang in my home?
Use and hang.
Multi-purpose,
Yeah.
art that imitates and embraces life.
Voltaire said, cultiver son jardin, so you could have a $300,000 Duchamp. But I don't think he got a lot of acclaim during his life. Art is subjective, but you can't stop word of mouth. And Toxic Avenger, it was mutilated by the censors in this country, in America, not in Canada. You only cut 45 seconds out. United States cut 20 minutes out. France cut one shot out, and 13-year-olds could see it. So Mother's Day, our best movie by Charles Kaufman. The same thing. His career was cut off at the legs, but the director's cut eventually got out, and Mother's Day is a classic, and it finally gets recognition. And Vinegar Syndrome just put out another. There's been like 6 iterations on the Blu-ray of Mother's Day. So Vinegar Syndrome now has a really, really good one coming out. So it's, word of mouth, that's a secret.
Well, I think Lily-Hayes can talk about this a little bit too, but what's kind of interesting and really rewarding about about Occupy Can coming out is seeing Lloyd being recognized with the reboot of the Toxic Avenger, and even that has been how many years in the making? I remember when we were at Cannes, which she has so much footage of that couldn't even be included. There was the announcement that that they were doing a big budget remake, and Arnold Schwarzenegger was going to be in it.
Right.
Like and that was over 10 years ago, and even that was long overdue. I mean, he really has.
Yeah, it was a different group, and they had signed Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, he was going to play the Exterminator.
Is that it?
Exterminator.